You ready to do this, Steve?
Man, I have been ready to do this for a month. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I am Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, once again, is Steve Madura.
I'm back!
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 64. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear hole. Now, we have had some great guests fill in. Johnny Casino.
Yes.
My brother Josh Stapleton. My wife Rita Stapleton.
Not a bum.
And I love all these people, but no one fills your shoes. Steve Madura, welcome home.
Welcome home. I did not wipe the shoes on the welcome mat at the entrance to the Fortress of Nerditude.
You can do whatever you want.
Footprints on the carpet. Welcome. I am so glad to be back. It has been a long time coming, a lot of things going on. I appreciate that Johnny and Josh and Brita kind of held the fort down, pardon the pun, whilst I was gone. So thank you. Thank you. It is good to be back, my friend.
So good to have you back. You know, it was something that I was thinking about today as I sat down right before we kicked off this. I was like, man, it has been a month since we've recorded together, and you and I have talked some on the phone, but mostly through text messages as things have been going on. And it just feels good to be able to talk to my best friend and my brother once again. I'm not going to lie, this is, I've been looking forward to this. I'm so happy you're here.
Well, it was funny because Spencer and I hopped on the show today, and we haven't seen each other, obviously, in about a month. So he's like, hey, you've changed a little bit. I'm like, how so? He's like, you used to be white. It changes a man. Prison changes a man.
I think the exact quote was, you have facial hair, but sure, whatever. I'll roll with it.
Whatever. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. So as Spencer has kind of started the show, just a quick kind of snippet as to what's been going on. So my father, love him to death. He was in the ICU actually, the VA hospital. He is a veteran, served in Vietnam in the Navy, and suffering from some lung issues that have been kind of debilitating. He was actually in a short-term coma for a while. Didn't know if he was going to come out of it, and he has become a walking miracle. He kind of defied all odds, all doctors. He actually went for a checkup this week, and the doctor looked at his file. He was a new doctor, and his jaw just kind of got lower and lower and lower until it hit the ground, and he's like, you have like a 10% chance of even being alive based on what's happened to you. So a lot of prayers, a lot of faith, and my dad just kept saying, I'm just expecting a miracle, and it's exactly what he got. So I thank you for just all your thoughts and all your prayers, and everybody out there listening. Thank you.
So I will tell you, while you've been gone, I've had a number of super friends reach out, other podcast hosts reach out and ask about you, ask how your dad is doing, how things are going. When Gabe Patillo came and visited, one of the first things he says, how's your buddy Steve? How's his dad doing? One of the first things,
that's awesome.
Delvin Cox, another good friend of the show, super friend, has got his own podcast, The Delvin Cox Experience. Just a great guy. We've talked to him. You've talked to him. He left us a voicemail, was wondering, everyone's been asking. So just know that while you've been gone, besides just keeping the fort held down here, everyone's been, throwing out love and prayers your way and keeping your dad in their thoughts. Obviously, we've talked, and so I've been constantly getting updates and asking you for updates and seeing how things are going. But I don't know how much you want to get into this, but I know, as we were talking, that, you've not only had to, deal with your dad being in the hospital, but, you also had to start, doing some, end of life planning.
Yeah.
And those are difficult conversations, and obviously require time and, dedication to what you're doing to make sure you're making all the right choices. And so, while you were gone, like everyone understood, like you were where you needed to be. And I was glad you were there and not having to worry about this silly little thing that we do once a week.
It on that note, and kind of on the funny side of it, it is, and I had to do a lot of that, and it is a surreal thing when you have to talk about, like, so who do you want to have speak at your funeral? It's like, well, I don't know, I think my brother will probably rib me, so not him,
Right.
And then you're shopping for like caskets, and it's, I mean, it sounds weird, but it's, I was like, I don't know how many different types of caskets one could have. There's like hot pink caskets and purple ones. I'm like, Prince, Purple Rain or something. So anyway, it's a very surreal experience, and caskets aren't cheap, man. Sprinkle me over Wrigley, man. Forget about it.
Right? It's like, I just need a pine box. You ain't got to go to all that trouble.
That's right. So anyway,
besides that, like, how are you doing? How is your family doing? Like, how have things been?
It's been good. Life is ever busy. Between swimming and scouts and ballet and just working and being a father and a husband. But this past weekend, I was just telling Spencer before we started the show, I was in Traverse City. Which, if you've not been to Traverse City, what a great town! Beautiful town. It's almost like a ski town with no ski hills, but like quaint little downtown, cool shops. I was there for business, and everybody was like, "Don't go! You shouldn't go! Snowmageddon's coming! 14 inches! Blah 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 blah." So I went anyway. I defied all the odds and didn't listen to reason, and came back, and it was fine. But when I got home, like, apparently it had snowed, a lot, and my sweet wife, I forgot to take the snowblower out before we left, so she's been shoveling, she's got guns of steel. She looks like a Popeye. I came home, I'm like, good golly!
What happened to olive oil?
Exactly. Whoa! So anyway, it was kind of cool, though. On Sunday, we have late church, so it starts at like 12 o'clock. This Sunday, she was like, you know what? Let's go do some service. And so we like threw all of the shovels in the back of the car, loaded up the van, and just drove around the neighborhood and just like shoveled people's driveways for like 4 hours. And it was really a cool experience just to like go out and serve and just do a little something for our neighbors and people we know and stuff. And we met some cool neighbors we didn't know before. And it was
How
awesome.
many times did the cops get called on you?
Exactly.
There's these people, that redhead boy's out there shoveling my walk.
Exactly. He walked over my begonias. Yeah. I got maced twice. One dog sicked on me, but a plate of cookies at the end, so it all worked out.
Oh, there you go.
In jail. I'm just kidding.
Dang it.
Anyway, so things have been good. Again, just very busy, and we're not through the out of the woods just yet, but it's been good. I've missed you and all our super friends. So,
Well, good. Glad to have you back.
Glad to be back. How about you? What is up with you?
So, what is
not
up with
your
me?
Not your weight.
That's what I say. What's up with me is what is down with me. I am 33 pounds down as of today.
From when we last spoke on the podcast?
Total. Cumulative since the beginning of January. From January 1 to today when we're recording, which is February 12th. When the podcast actually releases, it'll be like February 15th, something like that. I'm down 33 pounds as of this moment total.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, I'm sticking to trying to eat healthy, keeping my calories low. I'm exercising. I pretty much get cardio 6 days a week, sometimes 7, but usually 6 days a week. And then just like finding like little things, like right before the podcast, like I took a quick break and I did just like jumping jacks for like a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a lot, but like every little bit, it builds upon itself and it helps. So it was interesting though, because on Sunday, I was walking through the halls like after church was over, and a neighbor stopped me, and his name is Rob, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "I'm good, Rob. How are you?" He's like, "Good." He's like, "Hey, man, I saw you today, and I looked at your belly, and I was like, man, your belly's smaller." And I was like, "Thank you,
dude."
But it was kind of like, it felt good, but at the same time, I was like, why are you looking at my belly? Like that's a little off-putting. That's like not like, hey, I can tell you slim down. That's great. It's like, your belly's smaller. It's like,
hey, the junk in your trunk.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, why are you focusing on that part of my body specifically?
Right.
But I know he meant well, and I know what he meant. Like he was he was being very complimentary, and that was very nice. But just like, it kind of struck me a little funny. I'm like, could have said like your guns look bigger, or
Right.
your face looks thinner. No, it was like your belly is gone or something. I don't know. It was
Is awesome.
It was kind of cool. And then like the night before when I went to my motorcycle club meeting, I actually got into a 2X t-shirt, and I haven't been able to wear a 2X t-shirt in a long time. And it fit me pretty decent. Obviously, I've got some room to still improve.
Yes.
But I felt really good. So like things are going well in that department.
So what wait, so before you move on.
Yeah.
So what is the goal? What is the goal?
Well, as I stated at the beginning of this year, my big goal is to drop 100 pounds this year. I'm a third of the way there.
That's
and we are
awesome.
At the middle of February. So
Woo!
now obviously I'm probably not going to be able to sustain that kind of rapid weight loss the entire way through, but I've put myself in a good position to continue with the new habits that I have. I'm eating healthier. I'm only drinking water. I'm not eating 8 hours before I go to bed. Higher protein, lower carbs, lots of veggies. I'm sticking with the Hopper to Hellboy accountability group on Discord. So I'm talking to Peter Christensen and Chaufi and Ed Placencia, and Grouchy Surge is on there now, and Money and Pappy from my motorcycle club jumped in there. Josh is in there. So I'm just checking in with guys, seeing what they're doing. Just trying to Ian Corey Drake is in there. Just a lot of people, but trying to keep up with them. Trying to help keep them motivated, help keep myself motivated, because I find it's a lot easier when people know what you're trying to do and they're asking you about it. It's a lot easier to keep to it versus if you just don't tell anyone your goal. You can kind of fudge here and there. My goal was to get healthier.
Yeah.
No, my big goal is to lose 100 pounds. I'm just taking it a day at a time and working at it. So things are going well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The kids, when I do work out in the morning, the kids sometimes come down and they'll cheer me on, or Addison will be like, do one more. Lila this morning was sitting on my feet while I was doing sit-ups, and it really is. I mean, even that is so much more motivational than me just doing it myself. Right.
Well, it's like my boys come down into the basement when I'm on the treadmill walking. It's they'll come in, they'll talk to me, which is fun. It really is. But at the same time, if I'm trying to listen to an audiobook or watch something on Netflix, I'm just trying to keep in the zone. Yep. It gets a little hard. They're like, Daddy, I want a toy. Daddy, can I play with this? Daddy, can I play with this? Daddy, can I jump on the bed? I'm like, do whatever you want. I don't care. Just, I want 45 minutes. That's all I ask for, son. Just 45 minutes.
Right.
But they know I'm exercising. They know I'm working out. They really don't understand why, but I just say I'm just trying to be healthy and be big and strong, like Hulk Smash, which is the Incredible Hulk, but they call him Hulk Smash. So that's what. So anyway, that's what I tell them that I'm doing, and they kind of get it, but really, man, it's for my kids. I want to live a long, healthy life, and I want to see grandkids. That's my goal.
Yeah, man.
So. Otherwise, things are going good. We had my in-laws in town. They came for a short visit, and then they had to go back home. Real quick. So they were here. So it was good to have Gigi and Boppy here to play with the kids. My kids don't know this yet because we're not telling them, but we're planning a Disneyland vacation for the middle of April, right before Jackson's 4th birthday. And so we're going to take the kids to Disneyland for a week, somewhere in there. And so we're planning it, but we're not telling them yet because I don't want to hear about Disneyland every day for the next 2 months. Because that's what would happen. Daddy, is it time yet? Daddy, is it time yet? But let's see what else, man. Work's going well. Just doing my thing, just keeping busy and trying to keep on top of everything. You know how it is being a dad and being an employee and being a Cubs or a Boy Scout leader and being involved in church and everything. So,
yeah, man. Very cool. Very cool.
Anyway. Well, before we move on, Steve, I just got to say once more, man, so glad to have you back.
Good to be back, my friend. Let's get on to some Rebel Intelligence.
Let's do it. My favorite part of the podcast and yours.
Hit it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Okay, Steve, Rebel Intelligence. What do you have for me this week?
So, as you may have seen, and if you haven't, you need to go watch this. Obviously, the NASA launch of Mr. Musk's Falcon Heavy, which was phenomenal. Did you see the launch?
I did. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh! So, forgive me, but I have not seen previous launches, and so I wasn't prepared. Not for the launch. The launch was fine, and I've seen a few of those back in the day, when we were kids. But it was the landing of the rockets that blew my mind. I had not, like I said, forgive my ignorance, but I had not watched any of the previous SpaceX launches and landings. But to see the two rockets come down and land like simultaneously, oh my gosh! I was like blown the mind. Of course, what was cool, obviously, is that Elon sent a Tesla Roadster, with a Starman dummy in a spacesuit up in space, which I thought was just an awesome stunt, advertising ploy, whatever.
Right.
Thought it was hilarious.
Well, the other cool thing is, not only did he have the stuntman in there, but he was playing David Bowie while it was going up.
Right.
And inside that car is a little Matchbox car of a Tesla with a little dummy inside of that. And I was like,
that is right.
All right, man, what's with the Inception stuff going on here?
Well, and then I think they also have a copy of Isaac Asimov's Foundation novels on a storage drive. Right. So, but now that car is now in orbit, right? And so and I read in this article that if you actually go on NASA's system that keeps track of all heavenly or celestial bodies, such as satellites and Mars and all the rest, that the Tesla is
Uranus.
Yeah, I set you up for that.
Yep.
Yeah, my junk in the trunk has been called celestial before, but it's actually it actually comes up as that. It's Tesla Roadster spacecraft, and so it actually has its own trajectory, its own space in time.
Could you imagine what it'd be like to have that kind of money that you're like, you know what? I want to send people to Mars. As a test, I'm going to fire a car into outer space, and I'm going to let it circle around there forever.
Well, here's what I thought. If you've seen the movie with Sandra Bullock,
Gravity?
Yes, Gravity. You know that there is some very treacherous scenarios in which space junk can be very detrimental to one's longevity. And I'm like, oh, that's all we need, Elon, is a freaking car floating around out there. So when our next astronauts are up there, it's suddenly like, look out for that roadster! Bam!
Every time you say space junk, I'm imagining a 1970s softcore movie. Space junk. Wow! I don't know why. It's just the way you say it, your facial expression right now that only I can see. Space junk. Anyway. Sorry.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I mean, you can imagine there's enough satellites and Sputnik and who knows what else is flying up there. Do we really need more of that crap up there? I don't know. I'm just throwing a car up there now.
It's really interesting. There is tons of garbage, old used satellites and whatever that just go around. If you were to take a look at the planet, all that junk that's up there. But eventually it's going to lose its orbit and it's going to burn up in the atmosphere. So it's just a matter of time before global warming due to satellites falling to the Earth.
Well, he could have just given me the Tesla if it's just going to burn up anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay. Well, speaking of outer space, there is a little place I would love to travel back to, and that's the Verse. And for those of us that are brown coats and know what I'm talking about, Firefly. I loved that television show so much, and it was canceled too soon and not given enough time. And then, of course, there was a movie that came out, Serenity, which was excellent as well. And so there's always talk. Everyone always talks the cast. Is there ever going to be a reunion? Are you ever going to get together? And they've tried to, there's been some comic books that have come out. And there's been some video games that have come out. Well, now there's apparently going to be some Firefly books, some novels that are going to come out.
Nice.
However, Joss Whedon isn't going to be writing any of them. He's going to be a consulting editor, which still means that he'll have some input to kind of help make sure the character's kind of the right tone, everything's shaped right. But that makes sense because Joss Whedon is he's doing stuff. He did stuff obviously for the Marvel MCU. He's doing now stuff for the DCEU. Like, he's busy writing movies right now. So not that he couldn't write a book, but he's not going to be. So there's going to be a few books coming out. There's going to be Firefly, Big Damn Hero, Firefly, The Magnificent Nine, and Firefly Generations. And I'm going to tell you, Steve, I'm probably going to pick up these books because I loved that television show and that movie, and a little extra verse, a little extra, out there just struggling to make a life out in the black. I'm all for that.
That is I loved that show. I thought it was great. And I've seen like Nathan Fillion in other things, and like he's good. Castle was okay, but
yeah,
Firefly, freaking awesome.
I love Nathan Fillion, but he was so good in that show. Just so good.
So good. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was there was an article that came out recently that talked about with the coming of Black Panther, which I think we're going to touch on later, that Marvel actually had in the works, or kind of pre-plans to do a standalone War Machine movie.
Really?
Prior to going with Iron Man 3, which, I don't think it's anybody's favorite Iron Man. I don't think it's anybody's favorite Marvel movie. It was a fine, serviceable movie.
It was better than 2.
Yes, yes, of course. Yes, it goes without saying. But it was kind of interesting that maybe now with the rave reviews that have been coming out about Black Panther, that maybe they'll dust off this War Machine project. And Don Cheadle, freaking anything he's in, I will pay money for. Great actor. I don't know if they'd get him again, but yeah, great actor.
It's interesting that you talked about the Black Panther's like the ratings and the reviews, because like just a little while ago it was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, 100% by the critics, and then like one critic like gave it a negative review, and like Twitter went crazy because like the review was like, Black Panther, T'Challa doesn't fight enough bad guys in this, and that's like why I got knocked down. But like now, like there's been 2 others, so there's been a total of 102 fresh ratings and 3 rotten, and so it slipped from a perfect 100 to a 97%. So guys, I don't know if you should go see it. 97%. That's just that's not gonna make it. That's not good enough.
No, I wouldn't see it. Are there other movies that have gotten 100%? I've never seen a movie on Rotten Tomatoes that had 100%.
There's been a few. I think Toy Story 3 is 100%.
Really?
Don't quote me on that, but I think there have been a perfect Rotten Tomatoes score movies before.
Huh.
So.
Okay. Well, very cool. Well, yeah. So that's interesting. So we'll see if they dust it off, with the praise that Black Panther has already gotten. So we'll see.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see what happens. Actually, Steve, just a quick look. There's a whole bunch that have perfect 100%.
Really?
Like Citizen Kane, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, All About Eve, Paddington 2 currently sports 100. But
what?
That may be because not enough people have seen it, so it's gonna fall sometime. But like Modern Times, a movie from 1936, Singing in the Rain. The 1944 movie Laura, North by Northwest, an Alfred Hitchcock movie, Maltese Falcon, Repulsion, 1965, Adventures of Robin Hood, the 1938 like Errol Flynn, Rear Window, Rashomon.
I like Rear Window.
Toy Story 2, Philadelphia Story, Bride of Frankenstein. There's Seven Samurai, 1956. 12 Angry Men, 1957. So there's been a lot of 100s, but of course, like some of these older ones were definitely around before Rotten Tomatoes was around, so they're kind of probably going back and culling old reviews, but still, there's been plenty that have had perfect 100% ratings that all the critics loved it. So
very interesting. I did not know.
Paddington 2. Just so you know.
Not on the view list, but okay.
Hey man, if you get that movie pass, no. Still not going to see it. Not going to see it. Okay, so something we talked about a little while ago, Steve. You remember we talked about how Disney is talking about doing its own streaming service?
Absolutely,
and how they're going to pull like their Marvel movies and probably the Star Wars stuff from Netflix. Well, apparently some of the information about this Disney streaming service is leaked out. We don't have a name yet, so I don't know what it's going to be called, but we should make up names for it. Like it's going to be called like As You Wish Upon a Star or something. I don't know. It'll be like, they can't name it something like the Tinkerbell streaming service, because that just, it's going to be like...
A dream is a wish your heart makes.
Maybe something like Disney Home Video. I don't know. Something. But anyway, no rated R films are going to be on it. That's one of the things they're saying.
Okay.
You're not going to have any
Family-friendly.
rated R. It's going to be family friendly. One of the first things they're going to do is a live action adaptation of The Sword in the Stone.
Really?
The one with King Arthur and Merlin and all that.
Yeah.
They're going to do a live adaptation of that. They're going to go through and they're going to try to pull all the stuff together, from all the other places, basically, it sounds like. But they're saying that they're trying to do 5 original Disney programming, like movies or like adaptations or shows in the first year. So I don't know if that's going to be like all adaptations or if it's going to be like original TV shows, kind of like the Disney shows or like, the High School Musicals or, like whatever, something like that. But
yeah, it sounds like they're kind of doing a little bit of Netflix, getting some original content, kind of creating some, I mean, it's kind of pseudo original, I guess, being that the story has been there, but still, but making their own. That's interesting.
Well, that's kind of like the big thing I think that a lot of these streaming services are doing now, right? Because anyone can go out and license the rights to have the TV show Lost or Doctor Who or whatever. But the issue is that they can make more money producing their own stuff that's them. Like, so for instance, Netflix is really big on their shows and then like the comedy specials. Like they release like a new comedy special like every week. It's crazy.
And they're so cheap to produce that they can just churn these things out.
Right. And it makes them money because there's lots of people that'll view it, right? But like Amazon, like Josh and I talked about this last week. We were talking about the Super Bowl movie trailers. Like they've got a show coming up called Jack Ryan based on the Tom Clancy character from like, Hunt for Red October and Patriot Games, Teeth of the Tiger, Clear and Present Danger, like with John Krasinski from The Office who played Jim. And like, that looks like freaking awesome. I have Amazon Prime, so I'm going to be able to see it. But that's where I think that's where the real money is going to start going to, is the quality programming is going to be produced by Hulu and by Netflix and by Amazon and by Disney, and by, Bob's Tire Barn streaming service.
Right.
Which has got some really great stuff on the making of tires.
They really do.
I really do.
Well, we know that Weinstein and Company is not going to be producing anything, in the near future.
No, most definitely not.
Well, speaking of John Krasinski, there was actually a little scene on Ellen recently where he was asked about if he would be interested in rejoining the Office crew because apparently the Office is coming back, along with the likes of Roseanne and Murphy Brown and all the others. And do you know what his response was?
Probably like, if they back up a Brinks truck to my door, I'll do it.
No, it was actually, I have not been asked.
Really?
Yeah, which you think, similar to our discussion about Sir Ian McClellan with, Lord of the Rings and all the rest. You'd think that they would ask him like number 1, like he or Steve Carell.
Right. So here's the thing, though. Like, I don't know. This is like a situation where we talked about this with Roseanne, right? Because Roseanne, they're rebooting Roseanne, and that's coming out. But like, they killed off the character Dan, and they're bringing it back, and Dan's alive again. So it's like the last season didn't exist. Yeah. So here's the thing: the way The Office ends, Jim and Pam moved to Texas. Like, they're selling their home. They're going to move to Texas because their company that Jim helped start, Athlead, is now like blown up and is getting huge. So him, him and Pam are moving along with Daryl to go down to Texas, and like Dwight is married, and like Steve Carell like briefly appears, but he's been gone for a couple of years, and like everyone's kind of like going their own separate ways.
Yeah.
And so like, how do you bring that back? How do you reboot that? And let's be honest, the magic of that show was in the writing and the cast they had. When they brought in like new characters later on, like Robert California, was played by James Spader. Like,
I did not like.
A lot of people did. Like, he was meant to be like super weird and super creepy. And like on a rewatch, I really actually kind of liked his character more because I knew what it was supposed to be. But the first time through, like, I hated it. Also because who's going to fill Steve Carell's shoes?
Right.
Now, if you go back and you don't do The Office with Steve Carell, it's going to be what it was like the last few seasons. If you don't have Jim Halpert back and Pam and, you know, just everyone else, like all the big characters, you know, with the storylines that people got invested in, do you really want to watch a show that just has Phyllis and Creed and Kelly?
Right.
I mean, they were good. They were funny. Like Meredith was funny.
But they were support.
But like,
they were support. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and you think about, you know, I came across somebody, I don't know where we were, but they were watching one of the episodes when Jim and Pam find out that she's pregnant. And like he's like, it's like they're supposed to be like a dodgeball tournament or a kickball tournament or whatever. And he's like, I gotta go. And he goes back in. Great scene, right? And that magic of that relationship between Jim and Pam was so great. You're right. You wouldn't really have that again, because I think that was really what, you know, one of the large storylines that people were really invested in. So
yeah, absolutely.
Hard to recreate that. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, I think it'll be hard, but you know what? I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed, because if they could get, you know, lightning in a bottle twice, I mean, why not?
But it's like trying to get like the Seinfeld cast back. Like, would it really be the same? You know,
no.
You know, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be the same. So
especially once too much time goes by.
Right.
It's like, hey, we've never missed a beat. You're like, it's been 30 years.
Yeah, like Full House. Like they came back. I'm like, nah, not
it's with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
So
cut it out. Sorry. A little homage to Dave Coulier.
Yeah, played well in the 80s. It was a simpler time.
Right. Speaking of a simpler time, Steve, do you remember the days when you were a child where you could just play board games and not have to worry about greedy corporate overlords buying up your board game companies?
I do remember thinking that very thing when I was 8 or 9. Yes.
Well, apparently it's happened once again.
No.
The Mayfair Games, this is the publisher of the Settlers of Catan game, which is a huge game. Like I think it came out in like 2006, maybe. Helped really kind of like, I'd say like revolutionize like the board game industry, because I'd say board games were kind of maybe on the decline and had been for quite a while. I mean, video games, and you know, now we were getting to the age of like YouTube and streaming and whatnot. But Mayfair Games actually has sold all of its publishing catalog and games catalog to Asmodee North America, and Asmodee North America is going to be the one now that'll, you know, publish that game. But they've actually, Asmodee's bought up a couple of other companies. They bought up Seven Wonders, not the games, but they bought up Fantasy Flight Games, Days of Wonder, and F2Z Entertainment. So like in there's like,
wait, Days of Wonder is like
Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So Ticket to Ride is now owned by Asmodee. They also have, you know, some of like the Fantasy Flight Games does a lot of like the living card game stuff. So like the Lord of the Rings was a Fantasy Flight card game. You had the the Game of Thrones game. You had things like Netrunner. And then, of course, like, you know, Days of Wonder, obviously Ticket to Ride, but there's like the Star Wars X-Wing miniature game, like Magic, The Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like there's just a
Pandemic is one, I think, that's under Days of Wonder as well, which is a great game.
So apparently there's been some consolidation, and Asmodee is buying up a lot of the I guess what you call smaller, although in that world they're probably pretty big, smaller board game companies.
Huh.
You better look out, Milton Bradley.
Yeah,
Asmodee's coming.
Parker Brothers, it's go time.
Right.
Very cool. Very interesting. You know, speaking of I got nothing. The Venom trailer.
I was like, how are you going to segue from that into the next thing?
Have you seen the Venom trailer?
I have. What did you think of it?
I actually thought it looked pretty good. They obviously left a lot to be, I guess not to be desired. Not in a bad way, but like they left some mystique still about it. They actually don't show Venom, though we've seen him in other renditions and whatnot.
Right.
And I gotta say, like Tom Hardy, I think he's a fantastic actor. Loved him as Bane. He's actually slated to potentially be the new Bond. I don't know if you heard that. But
really?
Yeah. James Norton from McMafia was kind of up there as well, but a lot of people are saying he might be Tom Hardy might be the new Bond. So anyway, but saw him in this. It's a quick trailer, doesn't really show much of kind of the action of what's happening. A lot of before he changes into Venom, but I thought it was good. It made me interested to see the film.
I saw the thing. I saw it too. I really wondered if they were going to show just a little snippet of this, because I'm assuming he's playing Eddie Brock, the character that the symbiote Venom joins. But like in the comics, Eddie Brock's kind of a younger guy. Tom Hardy doesn't really look like a younger guy in this thing. I mean, he looks like a guy in his 40s. I mean, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. The ladies out there that are hoping he was like, 22 maybe. But he does look older, so maybe they'll write around that and have him be an older character. You do see the little symbiote, black goo or whatever, the alien, kind of like in this glass jar, kind of like moving around.
Right.
But that's about the closest you actually got to actually seeing Venom in that trailer.
Which, did you like that or did you not?
I would have liked to have seen something. I would have liked to have, maybe seen maybe just like in a shadow, like you've seen him jumping and like grabbing onto a side of a building or something, just a little something. So you see, maybe not like the transformation scene or anything like that, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. It was enough to get me interested, but not enough to hook me yet. So it's a teaser trailer, so hopefully we're going to see more. But yeah.
I think that's probably what they'll do. A little bit of teaser, get you in, and then a little bit more, lift up the skirt a little bit, show a little ankle,
Ooh, that ankle. Hot.
Tom Hardy's ankle, that is.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Get that 42-year-old Tom Hardy ankle over here now. Stat.
Speaking of Tom Hardy's ankle.
So the other interesting trailer that dropped this week was for Deadpool 2. And the funny thing is, like, I want to read this to you, Steve, because I love that they do the very irreverent humor and like they don't take things seriously. They kind of break the fourth wall. But under the little description on the YouTube channel, the actual trailer says, after surviving a near fatal bovine attack, a disfigured cafeteria chef, Wade Wilson, struggles to fulfill his dream of becoming Mayberry's hottest bartender while also learning to cope with his lost sense of taste. Searching to regain his spice for life, as well as a flux capacitor, Wade must battle ninjas, the Yakuza, and a pack of sexually aggressive canines as he journeys around the world to discover the importance of family, friendship, and flavor, finding a new taste for adventure and earning the coveted coffee mug title of World's Best Lover.
What the freak?
It has like nothing to do with the movie. I love that. I really like the trailer for this.
That's so weird.
I love the fact how they show like some raw footage before the CGI has been put on, and then Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, cuts in and is like, "What are they doing? We can't put the metal arm. You can't show this." He's like, "Hold on, I've got it." And then he shows like a little action figure. It's like, "Hi, I'm Cable." It's like, "I'm Sheriff Deadpool," and he's in like a Sheriff Woody outfit.
Looks like Woody.
And then he like jumps and he's like, "Here, taste my balls," and like jumps on him, like goes crotch first into his face. And they're like, "Oh, you're ready now? Okay, now roll the trailer." And they jump back to it. It's just. It looks like it's going to be a lot of like the same as the first movie. There's going to be a lot of probably crass humor, really funny stuff mixed in with a lot of like really gory action. If you like the first one, from the way this trailer looks, you're probably going to like this one.
And that one hits theaters May 18th, 2018, I believe.
Right, and we've talked about that. It's like right in between the Avengers and Solo, a Star Wars movie.
I like
It's
that
a real
coffee
interesting
mug.
time. Right. And earning the coveted coffee mug title of World's Best Lover.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I think that is all I have. What about you?
You know what? I have one more thing real quick that I wanted to give for you. And I'm going to start it off by doing a little bit of this. Bum bum ba bum 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 bum
Yes.
bum 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 bum. So right now, if you are paying attention, the Olympics are going. They're raging over there in South Korea. And,
My favorite. Love it. I could watch them all day and all night.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Right now, I want to give you a medal count. So far, the U.S. has 3 gold medals, 1 silver, and 2 bronze for a total of 6.
Woo!
The only countries that are higher than us is Germany with 4 golds, 1 silver, and 2 bronze for 7. And this one, which I think is the Netherlands. It's like red, white, and blue vertically, and it says NED. So I think it's the Netherlands, which 3 golds, 2 silver, 2 bronze. They've got 7. So as far as like, gold medals, we've only got two countries that are higher than us technically. Norway, though, has got like 9 medals so far, but it's 2 golds, 4 silver, and 3 bronze. So, but we do, Steve, still have our one Swedish listener. And so, dear friend, super friend out there, currently your medal count is at 2, a gold and a silver. For our friends in Canada, 2 golds, 4 silver, and a bronze. And, if we keep spreading out other places around the country, we'll give you your medal counts as well.
Azerbaijan.
Right.
Did you see, by chance, Chloe Kim's half-pipe performance today?
I have not seen that one yet. I heard it was excellent.
Pretty sweet.
We watched, what's his face? Oh, it was the first gold medal that was won. It was in the slope style, the snowboarding.
Redmond Gerard.
Yeah, Red Gerard. Like we saw that. He's dude, like 17 years old from Colorado. What a cool kid. And then we saw the American win the silver in the luge. He was so close to winning gold. So close to that thing.
Oh yeah.
But
that was a great story. Germany, I think they were the favorite to win the gold, and then he lost control.
He had like one bad turn, and it knocked him down just enough that he didn't even medal.
It's crazy to think, you are flying down 80 miles an hour down this thing on a little sled, and the skeleton, you go head first. I mean, it blows my mind.
Yep.
And how does one train for that? Is it I was going to do, I don't know, soccer, but then I thought, no, I'm going to do the luge in high school.
I don't know, but the one sport I think I could actually get into now, and actually at this age become an Olympic athlete, is curling. Yes.
How can that be a sport? They don't even have skates on.
It's shuffleboard on ice. I've looked at it, and literally you can become part of a curling club.
Oh, yeah.
As long as that curling club is I don't know, whatever, registered with the USOC, you can if you get good enough, you can compete to qualify and go to the Olympics. So here's what I'm thinking, Steve. We need to become a curling team. I think you have a few more people, but we should form a Fortress of Nerditude curling team, and we should try to qualify, because even if we can get good enough to go to the qualifying event, we can forever call ourselves Olympic hopefuls.
Yeah, I would say that is probably the only sport of any summer or winter games that I would ever be able to qualify for. I got a broom here, and I can sweep the ice really well.
Sweep the ice, Johnny! Sweep the ice!
Oh, yeah.
I want to be the guy that throws the stone, that rolls it out there. Just
so funny.
Like, ooh, he put a little spin on that. We'll have to see how they come in. Oh, they got those squeegees. Wah, 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 wah. And they win gold. It's like, what is this? Sean Capri, if you are out there, my Canadian friend, explain this to me. Like, this is like, I don't know what this is. It's like a version of hockey that's gone horribly wrong. Was there too many
Right?
moose and maple syrup consumption going on at the same time? They're like, I got an idea, you hoser. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
That's right. Yeah,
But,
I don't know either, and I don't know what the qualifications are for it. Like you need to be slightly overweight, and you see some of these people. I'm like, these are really the athletes. Like, are these at the top of their game? I don't know.
I'm dead serious, Steve. We should try.
I'm game. There's a place actually just down by my work that is a bar that also has a curling arena.
In Salt Lake City, because they had the Olympics here in 2002, at the Olympic Oval, they actually teach curling and they have like classes and like maybe competitions. I'm like, I got to get in on that and become an Olympic hopeful. That's my goal.
Oh, too funny. Too funny. Well,
anyway,
go USA. Woo!
Yeah, Team USA, or for, other listeners elsewhere, go your team.
Guten Tag.
Yay, sports. That's all I had, man, in Rebel Intelligence. That was the last thing I had. I'm tapped.
Very good, very good. Well, shall we move on then?
Let's do it. So, Steve, last week we were talking with Josh, or I was talking with Josh about the Super Bowl movie trailers that were shown. And so we asked our super friends, like, what was the Super Bowl trailer that stood out to you? And I got to admit, I forgot to put the question out there till the very last minute tonight. But we still did get some responses, so we're going to go to those. And we're going to start with our good friend, Peter Christensen, on the email.
Hey, Peter.
He says, Dear nerds, I wish Steve well, and I'm glad we will at least get to hear him angrily mourn the Bothans, because that's right, because I kept the Rebel Intelligence audio
yes.
still. He says, Jumanji. My brother was asking me why Jumanji was still, so popular, even though now it's kind of fallen off the pedestal. It's not number one now. He says, I'll second the recommendation. I think no one felt pressure to see it, but those that did see it were pleasantly surprised. My wife was skeptical, but really enjoyed it. It says, anyone who says there's no mass culture has no idea how many kids play Minecraft while listening to Imagine Dragons. We were talking about my brother, Imagine Dragons. Anyway, his movie, he says, Mission Impossible Fallout was my favorite trailer from the Super Bowl. Mission Impossible is following the same pattern as the Fast and the Furious franchise. A good first movie, forgettable second and third movies that introduce fun characters, then reborn in the fourth installment and getting progressively crazier and more intense. What happens first, Tom Cruise in a Fast and Furious movie or Vin Diesel in a Mission Impossible? Also,
the latter.
I think the latter too. Also, I wasn't impressed by the Solo trailer, but like Josh said, Disney has earned the benefit of the doubt with the Star Wars movies. Happy 63rd, Peter. Peter does love those Fast and Furious movies. I remember him talking about them earlier. Said that he was quite the fan, but
he likes Latino women. That's why.
Is his wife Latino? I was like, are you setting me up here for something, Steve?
No.
Hola. I'm with Peter and I'm with Josh. The Solo movie looked a little shaky, but Disney's going to get a pass. I'm going to go see it anyway.
Of course. Of course.
Let's go over to Twitter. Mike BC at Mike BC 1985. He says, Solo, but I really liked the Crocodile Dundee trailer better because it wasn't really for a movie. And it was obviously the commercial that was made to look like a trailer, but was really for like tourism in Australia, which I did find was really funny. Going over to Facebook, Caleb Albers, and buckle up, Steve. He says, I think we all know that my personal favorite was the Avengers Infinity War TV spot. Even though we didn't get a ton of new content, we did get a pretty good look at what we can expect to look like Iron Man's new armor and Cap's new shield, something which I was not very impressed with. What kind of shield only guards your forearms? But Wonder Woman had that. Anyway.
True.
But the trailer, she did also have a shield, but she had those, those gauntlets. Anyway. But the trailer that was most effective for me was Jurassic World 2. And even though I'm on the team that says this all should have ended with Jurassic Park getting nuked at the end of the first movie, I'm glad that the society still has a soul for those creatures. Personally, I would keep the herbivore dinosaurs and get rid of the carnivore ones, but that's just basic logic for me. I do think that this movie will be pretty interesting, even though it's going to follow the same guidelines as every other Jurassic Park movie. Hopefully this will add something more to the story instead of just confirm the already well-known fact that bringing dinosaurs back is a stupid idea. As for other trailers, none of them really got me hyped to see the movies that they were advertising for. I think it's a difficult task to get people hyped for a movie when you only have 30 seconds to do it. The marketing team for Jurassic World knew what they were doing when they paid extra for more time, something the other movies should have considered more. But that being said, I'm fully ready to go see Solo and A Quiet Place, but not because of the Super Bowl trailers. Those needed a bit of work. Also, still scarred from those vasectomy images and being explained what a rectal exam is. I listened to the podcast while driving and can't shut that crap off. So thanks. You know a number for a good therapist? So, Steve, I don't know if you know this, but we've found out that if we say, "Okay, Google, vasectomy images," Caleb Alber's phone is going to resonate my voice, and Google's going to do a search of that for him. So if I were to say something like, "Okay, Google, hemorrhoid cream," it's going to search hemorrhoid cream. Or if I were to say, "Okay, Google, redhead in lingerie," a picture of you, Steve, may show up.
Of course it would. I'm the top search.
That's what
I paid good money for that Google AdWords.
So, anyway, yeah, he was messaging me like crazy last week, like directly.
Really?
It's like, dude, you got to stop this. And so, I just
okay, Google, Latino women. Peter.
Right. So anyway, a little bit of fun with our good friend Caleb Albert.
That's awesome.
Brett T. Bodden says, Cloverfield paradox. Nothing better than instant gratification. How cool was it that we saw the trailer and then a few minutes later we learned that it's available right after the Super Bowl? Also, I'm new to the Cloverfield universe and I just watched the Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane for the first time last month, so it was nice to get the third installment fresh off the heels of my recent discovery of the series. I liked Paradox a lot because I like sci-fi stories rooted in the multiverse. One of my favorite TV shows of all time was Fringe, and like Fringe, Cloverfield Paradox has a cool take on alternate realities. I gotta admit, it was kind of cool to say, like, here's a trailer, and now it's streaming on Netflix. Like,
yeah.
That was pretty cool. That was all the answers we got for the question. Now, Steve, I have a little bonus here for you.
Okay.
Last week when Josh was on, our super friend of the podcast, Chad Fackler, or as we know him on Twitter, at Bear the Hairless, responded to a question, and Josh wanted to know where the name Bear the Hairless came for, and Chad came through. So he says, "Dear Fortress of Nerditude, Spencer, Josh, and anyone else who cares to know, the story of Bear the Hairless. Back when I first met my wife, she got me involved in the SCA, which the SCA, www.sca.org, it's kind of like I'd say kind of like a Renaissance group, like they dress up in Renaissance and maybe do like LARPing, live action role playing." Okay. He says, "As a newcomer, part of joining in is figuring who you will be in the past. It really makes sense after you've been involved. It's kind of like creating a character in D&D. Anyway, she helped me with the costuming part and involved a large furry cloak. So at the first event we went to, other people there said I looked like a bear in a cloak. I look like a bear in the cloak. And since I have a good sense of humor and a shaved head, I turned that into Bear the Hairless. Did I mention there may have been ale and mead involved? And well, it stuck. So that became a name now I use for all kinds of stuff, even my Xbox and Twitter handle. And if you look at my photo on Twitter, it is a photo of Jen and I in the very outfit I'm talking about. I think that may have been the very event. So anyway, that's the story of the name." So, if you have ever wondered how Bear the Hairless came to be born, Chad decided to walk into a group of medieval nerds, a group that we would probably fit into pretty well, and he was wearing a huge, basically a bear costume and has a shaved head. So
I'm looking at the picture right now. Yes, he is.
Yes, he does. Going back over to Twitter, Twitter, I think, and an email too. Like this was like kind of a crazy week. Paul Calicote, our good old friend at pcalico84, is going back still through the old episodes, and he says episode number 37. The question was to pick an old TV show to reboot. He says, I hope some of these count even though they're cartoons. One would be Star Trek, and it could be after Voyager or stories from another ship. Which, I mean, I guess we kind of got Star Trek Discovery, but yeah. It says Hercules, Legendary Journeys, SWAT Cats, Exo Squad, Biker Mice from Mars, and Bob Master. Okay. He also says that he's now, because, he's working through that back catalog, he says he's 7 episodes before he reaches our Stranger Things sidekick episodes, and 7 episodes after that, and he'll finally be caught up. So by my count, he's only like 25 episodes away from being caught up. So he'll make it there eventually, right?
Keep on listening. Yeah, man. Keep on listening. We'll
listen all you want. We'll make more, right? The old Doritos Crunch all you want. Okay, yeah.
I love that.
Anyway, thank you so much, Super Friends, for answering our question this week, even though it was a little late. We do appreciate your interaction each and every week. Once again, we'll always put the question out there. You can reach us by email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com, Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd, Twitter @fortofnerd, or by our voicemail. You can get a hold of us on the phone, 801-477-7687. And Steve, for the first time in a month, tell our super friends what they can do to help us out, man.
Yeah, they can rate us on iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as a Tesla Roadster flying through the sky with a naked eye.
Ah, very nice. A celestial body indeed it is.
Imagine that kind of eclipse. That'd be great. Like the Ambulant Entertainment with the bicycle. E.T. flying across the night sky.
He probably saw that as a kid. He's like, I'm going to do that one day, but with a car.
Exactly.
So he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it.
Not a bad dream. Yeah, that's not bad.
No, not a bad dream at all. So, Steve, this week I was kind of like looking through some stuff, and I came across an article that made me think a little bit. And the article was talking about like some of like the best and worst like twist endings, and it was kind of talking about movies. But I thought like we should broaden that up. Do you like a good twist ending in a movie, or like at the end of a video game, or like a book? Are you a big
love it?
Okay,
love it. Yeah, and especially when I haven't, when I have no knowledge of it, no preconceived notions, nothing. When it hits me like out of left field, like a wild haymaker, side of the face, bam.
I like them if they're done well. I think sometimes like things are, I don't know, like they're a little too telegraphed, and it's like you see them coming like a mile away.
Absolutely.
And so like it's got to be good, but like, what would you say is probably like one of the best twist endings you've seen? Book, comic, your video game, movie, whatever, TV.
Yeah, I would say, if I had to say movie, I think an epic one that we've talked about before, and it goes without saying, would be Empire Strikes Back.
Sure.
Obviously, Luke finding out his progenitor and his where the alimony never came from to fix his speeder.
You mean child support, not alimony?
That's right. Not alimony, that's right.
That's a completely different movie.
That's right. That's right. So I would say Empire Strikes Back, probably a classic twist and turn, and that was really before we had the internet and ways, I think, that people could really find out about that, and things we didn't go viral. Obviously, we didn't, the trailers didn't reveal much, so I think that was probably a huge one at the time, and I would have loved to have been there like a fly on the wall and seen people's reactions.
Right. Yeah. I know a lot of people are probably going to say like, oh, The Sixth Sense, like The Sixth Sense. But like, I didn't actually see the Sixth Sense movie until maybe like a month or 2 months after it had been out. And so like a lot of people were already kind of talking about it. And so I kind of knew that there was a twist ending. I didn't know what it was. So like that movie didn't hit me as hard. However, M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong's next outing, which
Red
was
hooded sweatshirt.
right, which was Unbreakable. That movie had a twist that I really, really enjoyed because you find out in the very end of the third act of that movie that David Dunn, Bruce Willis's character, who survived the train crash and survived his son pointing a gun at him and wanting to shoot him, and he's like,
Right.
you'll be fine, you'll be fine. Oh my gosh, that scene's still I watched that movie maybe 6 months ago, still intense.
Yes.
But you find out that Samuel L. Jackson's Elijah Price, this kid, the guy that keeps breaking, and you find out when he was a kid, his bones would break and all that, he actually is a murderous supervillain who planned the train crash and blew up buildings and created other car accidents, who was trying to find his nemesis, his exact opposite. And at the end, he's like, the kids used to call me Mr. Glass.
Mr. Glass.
And and you're like, holy crap. That, for some reason, even though I'd seen The Sixth Sense, and even though I knew this was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, I wasn't expecting a twist ending there. And when that all kind of revealed, it was really good. It hit me. And then of course we know with the movie Split, that takes place in the same world. And then at the end of Split, we see that little thing where you realize David Dunn's there. And so we know we're going to get another movie called Glass. And my guess is, my guess, just a guess.
Yes.
There's going to be a twist ending.
I would say so, yes.
Some sort of a reveal, some sort of twist. What else? What do you think are also big things that stand out to you?
I mean, classic, Planet of the Apes. So we have the whole movie has gone on, and we think that it's 2,000 years into the future, some new planet. There's nothing that would say otherwise until, of course, at the end when Charlton Heston, and when you rewatch this again, it's so overacted. He's
so cheesy.
No, dang you dirty, you sons of, anyway.
You blew it up.
As he pounds the sand and the waves splash over him. But of course he sees the fractured Statue of Liberty, which now obviously reveals that he has been on planet Earth the entire time, and it was ravaged by nuclear war. So, it's classic, obviously classic.
Right. A big classic twist right at the end. That's obviously shown to a lot. I have one in a video game, and you probably haven't played this video game, but the video game's BioShock Infinite. And so big spoiler, if you haven't played that game, mute me for the next 2 minutes. BioShock Infinite was a great game. It was just a fantastic game where you're this character, Booker DeWitt, and you get brought into this world to basically rescue this girl that's been kidnapped, and you're trying to get her, you're supposed to these people are asking you to go get her. But when you start out, you have this opportunity. You're kind of in this religious area where you have this opportunity to be baptized or not. Right. And the character chooses not to be baptized, and so Booker DeWitt kind of goes through this area, and you get into this world called Columbia. It's up in the clouds, it's this big city that's up in the air that's being supported, and it's being run by this religious zealot named Zachary Hale Comstock. And basically Comstock has taken this girl Elizabeth, and you're trying to get her back, and you go through all this fighting and whatnot to kind of get her, and all these kind of weird things start happening. But at the end of the game, you realize there's this twist where you realize that Booker DeWitt has this kind of shady background, this past, and you don't know what it is. And he lost a daughter years and years and years ago. And then you find out that there's time travel involved, and that his daughter that was stolen in the past is actually this girl Elizabeth. And so he's trying to basically save his own daughter. But then it goes a step further and gets really trippy, because she starts getting all these supernatural powers, and she can kind of be have this omnipresence, so she can see kind of what's going on. And you find out that your character, Booker DeWitt, is actually kind of in a multiverse, so to speak, that in that early part of the game where you have the option to be baptized, if you choose not to be baptized, you remain as Booker DeWitt. But if you get baptized, you change and you become a new man, and you take on the mantle of this character named Zachary Hale Comstock. Who becomes this religious guy, and then through greed and corruption, it becomes a really kind of corrupted, bad place. It's not the utopia that it was designed to be. and you try to steal your own daughter back to like, try to help change things. And then in the end, like Elizabeth realizes that the only way to stop this cycle of going on would be to basically
kill Hitler.
Yeah, right. But basically to kill Booker DeWitt in the crib, like before Comstock can even be born, or before Booker DeWitt can be born, or like before they have the chance to split, to kill that individual. And then when she does that, like all the different versions of herself through all the different timelines like end up disappearing, and she disappears. It's this really like trippy thing where like you play through the whole game. You play through the whole game one way, and then you get to the end and you see all this other stuff, and you're like, what? And then like I remember like as soon as it was over, Brita and I were both like, what the heck just happened? I had to go to a YouTube video and like watch it to try to like get a little clarification as to what everything meant.
So wait, do you play as Booker DeWitt the entire time?
You play as Booker DeWitt the entire time.
Oh, wow.
And Comstock is like the main villain. He's like the guy that's like...
And you are the villain.
And you realize if you made a different choice in a different multiverse, like in a different universe, you would have been Comstock. And so you would have been trying to defend your daughter against this like guy who's coming to like steal her because it's your daughter and you're trying to protect her. But this Booker DeWitt's trying to come to steal her. It is trippy.
So your character actually gets to make the choice to be baptized or not.
Yes. Although as I recall, like I think you pretty much have to choose not to be baptized. I think because otherwise you wouldn't play as Booker DeWitt through the game.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
that's trippy. Wow, that's cool.
It was really cool because it was a great game, but then like literally like within like the last like hour, like all this stuff happens and they put it together and you realize like she's missing part of a finger, and that's because when she was a baby and pulled through this like time portal, it closed just at the very last second, like clipped off a little bit of her finger, and that's why she's missing a little bit because a little bit was left behind. It really trippy game, really cool. And then at the very end, you see that like this world exists in the same world as like the first and second BioShock games, but those games were set kind of like in an underwater city. Anyway, really, really cool video game that had a twist ending that definitely took me a little bit of a post game like watching footage on YouTube to kind of figure out.
Dang, that's
super good.
Hard to
super
follow.
good.
That is cool. That is very cool. Going back to movies, what about The Prestige? You remember, that came out at the same time as I think The Illusionist or something like that.
Yep.
Two movies kind of similar, but The Prestige had a little bit of a twist. It was in between, I believe, the two Batman movies.
Christian Bale, right?
Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine.
Yep.
So two rival
Michael Caine. Michael Caine's right here.
Very good. Very good. And, two rival magicians, obviously, Hugh Jackman co-starred, and kind of the feud between the two and who could do the best trick, the show-stopping trick,
right?
Which I think was dubbed the Transporting Man. And I think that was kind of the finishing trick.
Right.
And it's only until the end that you obviously, realize that the only way that Christian Bale's character is able to pull it off and really, be in two places at once is because he was actually a twin.
Right.
And you only realize that until at the end, which is phenomenal.
Which I think is interesting because when you look back at it, I remember throughout the movie thinking like, at times it looks like he loves his wife and he's like really caring, and other times he seemed like really cold towards her, and like didn't have any interaction. I'm like, yeah, but that's because it's the other guy. And like, man, if you had a twin brother and like he was swapping places with you, like you'd have to have that talk, right? You're like, now listen, no hanky panky, right?
But you can buy Valentine's Day gifts,
right? You can do the hard stuff I don't want to do, but you don't get to do the fun stuff.
That's so funny. That's and isn't it always kind of fun though to like go back in movies or whatever when you know the end and then like review it and be like, oh, aha, yes.
Do you remember Fight Club? Like that movie was kind of that same way, right? Where you have Edward Norton's character who's like doesn't have a name throughout the entire movie. Like no one ever calls him his name. But then you have like Tyler Durden, which is played by Brad Pitt through the whole thing, and like he's kind of the anarchist. The soap salesman is kind of like always like pushing Edward Norton's character to do stuff. And then at the end, like when he goes to blow up all the buildings, like, I'm going to get rid of you. He's like, and like he shoots himself through the mouth and it kills Tyler Durden. And you realize like Tyler Durden was like a figment of his imagination the whole time. And so like when he was talking about Tyler Durden, to everyone else around him, like everyone kind of thought he was a little crazy, and so they just kind of like went along with it.
Right.
And he's like, and that's because he couldn't see anything, like no one could see him. So it's like, what about like when he fights Tyler Durden? No, he's just fighting himself in front of like a whole bunch of people, and no one says that's a little crazy. They're just like, no, let's still fight. We're good,
and let's bet on it. I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird, actually.
Steve, do you remember the Scream movie? The first one?
Yeah, with Skeet Ulrich or whatever.
Yeah, Skeet Ulrich. Yeah,
Skeet
and there was
Ulrich,
like, there was, I was going to say Liv Tyler, but that's not it. Nev
Campbell.
Drew Barrymore, Nev Campbell.
Yes.
That movie, obviously, like, that was kind of like, was that Wes Anderson?
Wes Craven.
Wes Craven, yeah. Where he kind of took like a horror kind of movie, a slasher flick, but kind of like made it like really hip, and it was like with a bunch of like young kids that were like really kind of popular at the time, set it to like, really popular music, like kind of changed the genre, so to speak. But like that movie, like, they're trying to figure out who the killer is, right? The ghost face killer, the slasher, trying to figure out, who's doing all this. And then like at the very, very end of that movie, you find out it actually wasn't a single killer, but it was two killers. It was the buddies, Billy and Stu. And like, they were doing the killing. And like one of them was motivated because like Nev Campbell's character, like her mom was supposed to be some sort of like slut who slept with their dad and broke up like their parents or something. And the other kid was just like some psycho kid that like was in for, like murdering and torturing people and whatnot. And, like I remember, like at the time, like that seemed like a big twist because you were thinking it's just going to be one killer, but how's this killer, going from place to place so fast and like they can't catch him, and then you realize, well, it's two stupid high school idiots using walkie-talkies and communicating back and forth and doing that. It was kind of I remember it was kind of freaky and like, but it was still kind of like a hip movie back in the day.
Oh, and you remember like at the end, he's like, "Oh man, my mom's going to be so mad."
Yeah,
like.
It's like, what? Why? But I thought that was kind of a big shock for like, back in high school because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, that was a good movie. What about, there was one more that I wanted to I was thinking about. I had it written down. Oh, Clue. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Love the alternate endings, a little choose your own adventure book there.
Uh-huh.
Who knew it was the butler?
So I like I said, I like twist endings in media, like in books and in video games and movies and TV, if it's done well. But there's some movies that like don't do it well, that you see it a mile away, or it just seems like bad because they follow like the same tropes. This example I'm going to give, I don't think is necessarily bad, but like, I think it kind of lessens it. So this was a big thing. Do you remember the Newhart show at all? It was on
Bob Newhart. Yeah.
Yeah. So like there was the Newhart show that was on from like, there was like the Bob Newhart show was on from like the early 70s, like 72 to 78. Then there was the Newhart show, which was on from like, I want to say like 82 to maybe like 90 or so. And in the Newhart show, which was the newer one, his character was a slightly different character, but he was like, I don't know, like he was like from New York City, and he went to like Vermont to run like a little inn and have like a little like bed and breakfast and a little inn there. And in the end, I guess like some Japanese tycoon had bought up like all the land around him, and all the characters had like sold out, and like they decided to stay and like continue running the inn. And then a couple years go by, and then everyone kind of comes back, and everyone's kind of like rich and doing really, really well. But it's this big golf course now. Like the whole place has been turned into a golf course. And Bob Newhart's character in Newhart gets hit in the head with a golf ball. And then he wakes up. And when he wakes up, he's in bed next to his wife from the Bob Newhart show. And he says, I got to tell you about this crazy dream that I had. And so basically making it look as if the entire run of the Newhart show from like 82 to 90 was actually a big, huge dream sequence that took place during the original show of the Bob Newhart, which ran from 72 to 78, where he was like a psychiatrist in like New York City or something else, like completely different. Like,
Right.
I know that was like a big deal, and that everyone, kind of liked it, and because it was kind of, it was supposed to be kind of a smart thing to do because, the Bob Newhart show and just the Newhart show and whatnot. But the whole like waking up from a dream sequence has been used now like a bunch, and like this example is kind of silly. But do you remember Super Mario Brothers 2?
Yeah.
In that game, and the real story is, it was a different game originally, and then they ended up reskinning it with the Mario stuff. But in that game, like Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach and Toad are like in a completely different world. Like there's like birds that shoot eggs you got to jump on and throw back at them. And there's like all these like different creatures.
Is that with the turnips and stuff?
Yeah, the turnips that you have to pick up and throw. Like it was all completely different. And you go through, and like the boss at the end was this guy named Wart, and you had like pick up these like little, essentially like little storage containers, like little buckets you could hide behind that would be safe, but then you could like pick them up and you could throw them, and you'd kill Wart. And then when you defeat the game, you find out, really? You're just in a dream. Mario's dreaming this whole thing. And I remember like I enjoyed the gameplay of that game, but I got to the end of that and I was like, what the crap? This is just a dream. Like that aspect of it did not make me happy. And I get it. It was probably one of these things where they went, okay, this game doesn't look like the first game. And It's going to confuse a lot of people because really it was originally a different game, and they just kind of reskinned it for Mario because of, reasons.
Right.
But I did not like that ending. And then, of course, Super Mario 3 comes out, and the world looks similar to the first game with, Goombas you could stomp on, and, you've got, Koopas, and you've got, the Koopalings, and you've got Bowser again. And so, like, everything kind of went back to how it was. And, like, Mario 2 is kind of that one game that, like, I enjoy it. It's fun to play, but, like, it doesn't seem to fit in with anything else. That's a bad use. That's a bad use of the Newhart to Bob Newhart. Like, it was all a dream, right?
I totally. That's so funny though, because had it not been the dream and the Mario thing, like you're like, I like the gameplay, but you're like at the end, you're like, dang it, they pulled one over on me. Is that why? Maybe do you feel like you've been lied to, or do you feel?
No, I don't feel like I've been lied to when I play the game. I just felt like especially looking back at it now, it's like it's just cheap writing. Like maybe if they would have been like, at the end, like had like Mario like go down a pipe or something and then pop back up in the original world or something like that, like an alternate dimension, like, some sort of different, like, hey, you went down the wrong pipe and, whatever, that maybe would have been a little easier to kind of try to logically put together and make that jump between the two worlds. But like it was just a dream. It's like, oh, come on. It just felt lame. Poor writing.
Is it kind of like the line that Ryan Reynolds gives in the trailer for Deadpool 2? He's like, that's just lazy writing.
Yes, exactly right. What about you? Do you have a bad example of like a twist ending?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I think M. Night Shyamalan, he kind of had his day, and it was kind of a bit of a
Shamalama ding dong.
Shamalama ding dong. So I did like Sixth Sense, and that was one that caught me off guard, blew me away. Didn't let anybody tell me about it beforehand. I agree with you with Unbreakable. I thought that was good. But then we get into a little bit later, and everybody kind of knows the trick, right? Everybody knows that he's had.
You're waiting for it.
Signs, I think, and maybe a few others. But then we get to the village.
Oh yes,
the village. Now. I like Bryce Dallas Howard, like Latino women, but with this one, the fact that they're there, I thought that the creatures were a little menacing, but the fact that it's all happening on some like forest preserve and they never know about it, I thought that it was just kind of kind of a layup. It wasn't a shocker. It wasn't a really big thing. In the end, she has to go for help for medicine. So she's blind. So she crawls over the fence or whatever and goes to the ranger, and he stops when he sees her on the road. I just felt like it was a little infuriating at the end, and that's time that we'll never get back.
Right. What about the Planet of the Apes? And I'm not talking about the original, but I'm talking about the Mark Wahlberg one where he goes off into the future and he like travels, and then he comes back to Earth, and lo and behold, who has gotten back there before him? But those damn dirty apes. And he gets to the Lincoln Monument, and like the Lincoln Monument, the Lincoln Memorial is like a chimpanzee version of Lincoln, right? Like that movie in and of itself, I don't think was great, but like that freaking ending, I think was so telegraphed, was so obvious with what they were going to do, that I think it totally killed it for me. Like I was like, nope, I'm done with this.
Well, and the fact that they would use like another, like memorial statue type thing, I'm like, you just reskinned the Charlton Heston. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Here's the last one, and this may be a little controversial. It may ruffle a few feathers. It may not sit right with people. Lost. Okay. So at the end of Lost, you have this scene where they all go into the church, and they're all there, and everyone's there. But like you realize when this whole scene's happening, and Jack gets to the church, and Hurley's there waiting for him, his dad's there, like everyone's dead.
Yes.
And you find out that everyone's dead. But the problem is the way they kind of filmed this, because for a long time throughout the whole run of the show, there was a lot of speculation that everyone was dead to begin with, that the island didn't exist, that these people died in the oceanic flight to begin with, and they're all experiencing their own like personal,
journey.
Journey or purgatory as they try to work through their own issues. But they're all having kind of a shared experience together because they were all together when the plane went down. And that was a big thing. A lot of people thought, a lot of people talked about that for a few years. And so at the end of the show, they kind of wrap it up, and everyone's dead at the end of the show. And the way they kind of filmed it with kind of like the plane wreck, like right before showing that church, made it look like a callback, and Jack lying there like, oh, this never really happened. They were all dead. Now, the reality is, and the writers have come and said, no, that's not the case. Some time has happened between when all the events of the island kind of finish and to when Jack gets there. And then, yes, he's dead. But they weren't dead the whole time. But unfortunately, I think it was executed poorly enough that like too many people did think that it was they're dead the whole time while on the island, which unfortunately for me kind of, I won't say ruined the whole series, but it left too many things like very vague enough for me that I was like, well, depending on how you want to interpret it, depending on how you want to look at it, if you're not listening to things that the directors and the writers say after the show and how you interpreted it, which is obviously how media and TV is supposed to be. They put something out, you try to interpret it for yourself, and everyone sees it a little differently. Like it kind of fit into the everyone's dead mold. And so like that kind of twist at the end was like, oh, everyone's dead. Kind of fed into the, well, we thought everyone was dead the whole time anyway sort of thing.
So are you saying, again, just to clarify, that the directors have come back and said that they weren't, that when the plane went down and when they ended up on the
island,
time had passed, so they weren't dead the entire time on the island?
Correct. So they said that everything that happened on the island, the entire time they were there. They were alive. That really happened. But at the very end, when you see that last plane crash, time has passed. There's been a few years or whatever. There's been a period of time. And then that's when Jack dies and then goes to the church, and you have that church scene, and all his friends from the island are there. And that's where they all kind of like have that kind of like moment where they're all kind of together again to kind of, work through this last thing, and Jack's going to move on now. And just the execution, man, like kind of left that big question mark hanging over it for a lot of people. And
I think they could have just let it lie, like instead of explaining it. Because I think when you go back, because I actually liked the ending, I thought that was kind of kind of a cool wrap up, and it was kind of touching. You know, I'd traveled many a year with these individuals.
Sure.
But then to go back and say, oh, the island did actually happen. I mean, that cheapens the whole thing. That's
right.
like,
It was
so
something I think
I will live in my own reality then.
Yeah, it was also something I think J.J. Abrams had always intended for it to end this way. I remember hearing that he had written this scene like at the very, very beginning. Like he knew this was how it was going to end. A lot of the in-between and the middle stuff with a lot of plot lines that were dropped and never explained or finished, you know, that was other people doing that stuff, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Or J.J. Abrams writing stuff and then like, you know, leaving the project to go do his next thing, which I believe, you know, was the Star Trek movies at that time. So, yeah. So for me, that's like one of those things where like, great show, loved the show, but the ending and the way they ended it kind of
bad taste.
Yeah, just a little bit bad taste. Not enough to completely sour me on it, but enough that it's like it could have been done a little bit better.
Mario 2.
Yeah. It wasn't a Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes, but you know.
I mean, no.
It
very
wasn't,
cool.
Wasn't that good also. So I'm curious, and the reason I kind of brought this up is we've got some movies that are gonna, you know, coming up this next few months, like Black Panther, and obviously the Avengers: Infinity War, and whatnot. The Solo movie. Like, do you think we're gonna see any big surprise twists in the Solo movie?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm trying to think of the general story. I mean, no, I don't.
See,
do you?
I don't think so in Solo. I definitely think we're going to have a big, huge cliffhanger at the end of Avengers: Infinity War, because obviously we know there's another one coming. But is there going to be the temptation to do a twist? Like, I fully believe someone's going to die before the end of the first movie. Like a big character is going to die, and that's going to be the plot.
You're saying in Infinity War?
Yeah, it's going to be the cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah.
But the question is there going to be a twist? Is someone who normally is good going to turn bad? Is there going to be someone that's going to do something out of the norm? I don't know.
Scarlett Johansson, if she wasn't having a standalone movie, I would say she'd be killed off.
Scarlett Johansson, huh? I think it's going to be...
But she has a standalone, so she can't.
Yeah. I think it's going to be Cap, or it's going to be Tony. It's going to be Iron Man, or it's going to be Captain America. I think it's going to be one of those two. That would have the most impact because they're big players. And like Peter Christensen said a while ago, Doctor Strange is kind of like Iron Man 2.0 in a way, the character, Stephen Strange and Tony Stark. So if he goes, you kind of have a backup and a replacement.
Well, and you wonder as well, I mean, Robert Downey Jr., he's probably looking to move on to other things, and, maybe it's his time.
Maybe. So here's my question for our super friends this week, our question of the week. What is a movie that had a big twist or surprise ending that you really loved, something that stuck out to you, and tell us why? Like, was there a reason? Was it the way they did it, the build up? Was it, the fact that like it had implications or made you look back at stuff and like reevaluate it? Like obviously the BioShock Infinite game like made me go back and like reevaluate the entire experience I'd had playing that game for like 20 hours, total at the end of that. And let us know, and we'll put that question out there on Facebook and Twitter, and you can respond to us on Facebook, Twitter, email, the phone number, wherever you want to, man. Just it's out there for you. So what's the big twist ending in a book or a TV or a movie or whatever video game, and why? Why did that stand out to you? May the Force be with you always.